from the police, and I need to read it to you tonight. It's from Detective Inspector Tommy O'Reilly to Mrs. Annie Murphy of Plymouth, Michigan. Dear Mrs. Murphy, through my investigation of your husband's death, I have come to the irrevocable decision that your husband's death was not accidental. I have made certain that all of my main suspects are here now at your husband's wake. I am giving you the chance to solve this mystery among yourselves for the next few hours. I will give you the following facts. 1, your husband did not die as a result of the car hitting him. He was shot at approximately midnight and was already dead when hit by the car. 2, your husband's business was under investigation. And 3, certain complaints had been filed against your husband in the past few months by several people present at this wake. Someone present is an undercover police officer who will be making an arrest at the end of your investigations. You have a few hours, Mrs. Murphy. Use them well. With regards, Tommy O'Reilly, Plymouth Police. Well, I must say that the police have quite a nerve to send me such a horrible letter, and to include myself as a suspect. And why, Father, would he think that you were still a member of the police? Patrick told me that you'd left years ago. Obviously, we have a lot to discuss here. I shall say right now that I had nothing to do with my husband's murder. I was home all evening. Where would I go of an evening?
No, Ann, I did not join the police department. I've got some friends down there. I like my friendships. And I think Tommy O'Brien, I think he's a fine man. As far as my whereabouts that night, I was just another patron in the bar like everyone else. Old Liam here was drinking a little bit too much and started talking a little wild. So I decided I'd take him home for the concern of everybody else. And you know what, too? I was very surprised not to see Deidre outside. Everyone knows about her disdain for us pub goers. And I was surprised that she left her post before the pub even closed.
Well, Patrick was a fine man, and I was honored to consider him my best friend. Why, we grew up together right here on this very street. I was in the pub that evening, sharing a few pints with friends, that is. And, well, we were toasting to the memory of Thievin' Tom. But a fine man he was. What a rascal. He sure was. Wait a second. Father, wasn't that your case? I think I remember that, yeah, while you were still a detective. What a fine man, that Thievin' Tom. A true pity that he died soon after being sent to prison.
I was outside the pub on the night in question. I'm happiest when I'm outside where I can keep an eye for all the drunks. Everyone would have seen me out there with my prohibition sign. I could never understand how a fine man like Patrick Murray would go ahead with construction that would encourage more drinking. But marriage can change a man. When the weather got too cold, I went home alone. I had a cup of tea, and then I went to bed.
Well, it goes without saying, I was home as well, alone. Honestly, it hurts my feelings that I even have to say this. I think that this is some joke, and in fact, my eye is on you, Liam Flynn. This is exactly the kind of thing that you would find amusing. Why don't you just go and have another drink as usual? It's really no wonder that Patrick dissolved your partnership.
Patrick was my brother, and I loved him. We may have had our disagreements in the past, but to think that I could be his murderer is absurd. I haven't even been home to Plymouth in years. I was at the hotel with my husband.
Patrick was my brother-in-law, and I loved him like a brother. That makes him family. I was in the house with Ann that night, where she made me my favorite supper of steak, potatoes, and caramelized carrots. And I had a little bit of wine, too. Then after dinner, we sat right here and played this lovely piano. The phone never rang that night.
I was at our hotel, busy with a business call. The surprise trip to Plymouth that my wife insisted on has been lovely. But my business is not the type that can stay at my office.
Well, I can say for a true fact that Brian is a generous soul. Soon after I arrived, he showed up with money enough for a few pints for everyone. Didn't we all have a wonderful time?
Liam, you never could be a man that kept your mouth shut. Yes, I was at the pub, celebrating the win I had on the horses. Where's the harm in that? But here's something for all of you that puts Liam in a whole new light. I overheard Patrick on the telephone a week or so before he died. It sounded like it was about the numbers at the pub. Were you drinking away the profits again, Liam? If I were a betting man, I'd give any good one good odds.
Brian, you will not start betting at my husband's wake. Have you no control at all?
You know, after a little bit more reflection, I do seem to remember this evening a little more clearly. As most of you know, I live right across the lane from Liam, and I can't ever recall seeing the good father drive you home as you claimed just a moment ago. I did see you arrive home that night, soaked from the rain, well after midnight. Perhaps the good father is confused, and it was another night that Liam needed a ride home.
I believe that I can help you out, Father. Sure, the talk of thieving Tom would have upset you, and you may have gotten your nights mixed up. Some in this room may not know the story of thieving Tom, and sure, it's a grand tale. Many years ago, when all present were much younger, thieving Tom was well known in these parts for his thieving ways. He broke into houses and took all the fine things. And one night, he broke into Draper's jewelry store on Main Street and stole the finest prize ever. A large sapphire known as the Eye of the King. The ancient jewel was on loan from Ireland and was rumored to be part of the King Leprechaun's booty. Well, but anyway, he stole it. Sad man. The good father was a detective then, and didn't he catch thieving Tom? Weren't Tom's fingerprints all over Draper's, and didn't Father Kelly's evidence put Tom away in jail? And didn't the poor man die of a heart attack only 2 months later, protesting his innocence? Father went away to the cemetery soon after, and didn't you know the Eye of the King was never found?
I finished my business call, and I phoned up to my room to see if my wife wanted to join me for a drink. And no one answered the phone.
I am glad to see that my husband is so supportive at this trying time. Thank you, Colin. I admit that I didn't stay in the room all evening. I did go out briefly for a walk. And that is when my sister-in-law, Ann, was walking at her gate. She wasn't home that evening either.
You know, Deidre, that was a fine story you told. But, and it's true, we never did find the jewel. But going back to that night in the pub, my recollection wasn't faulty. When I found that poor man at the side of the road, he was wearing a blue raincoat. Now, I've noticed that Ann's raincoat was hanging in the pub that night, a blue raincoat. Now, do you think it was possible? Remember, it was dark and stormy. Do you think it was impossible that somebody mistook Patrick? It was killed in error rather than someone aiming for Ann?
Whoa, that's a frightening thought you've left us with, Father. I can think of only one person here that would want me dead. But I can't believe that she would actually stoop to murder. Since my sister-in-law has such a suspicious mind, I'll tell you that on that night, I went searching for Liam, knowing that the recent troubles with Patrick had him very upset. He wasn't there, though, when I arrived, and the place was silent.
You know, Lan, Liam told me that your marriage to Patrick was not all that you hoped that your fond feelings would be for someone else. And I think love is a very, very tricky situation.
Now, Father, I told you that in confidence. It was not Patrick's fault that some lady found him attractive, but you have secrets too now, don't you, Father? When we were at the pub that fateful night, a note seemed to fall from your pocket. I picked it up, and I wondered to myself, why ever would this man be writing you with such a mysterious message? Matter of fact, let me see if I have this note. It says, Father Michael, have you received your special package? It is time for you to pay the price. All eyes will be on you, and it's signed P.M.
Now, Liam, why would Patrick ever write such a thing? Are you sure, Father, that it was in his handwriting? Now, I found a similar note in his desk at the pub, and it read this: May you be afflicted with the itch and have no nails to scratch it with. Your time is running out. My curse on you and ruin to you, you lying, thieving scoundrel. I'm sure that I know nothing about these notes at all, but I can tell you, though, that Patrick's money problems at the pub were really severe.
I think Liam is not being completely forthcoming. My company owns the mortgage on his property, and I happen to know that we're about to foreclose.
These money troubles of Patrick's seem to be very far-fetching. He told me the other day that he was stopping off to pay Brian's difficulties. Still gambling, are you, Brian? Doesn't that threaten your career?
That would explain what I saw. Before I left my protest spot that night, I saw Brian acting like a thief, sneaking back in through the back door of the pub, having a secret meeting there.
Well, I saw Cole walking down the street last week, very busy, talking to someone else that I didn't see. He was so busy that I don't think the man noticed me. I don't think he realized how loud he was talking. I don't think he realized he stopped right in front of my house where I was sitting in my parlor, looking out of my window. I overheard him tell this person that he was walking with at the sale of the Archway Pub was all but assured. But as far as I know, Patrick wasn't selling the Archway Pub. Why would he lie?
You know, I've been giving some thought to this letter you read, Ann. It's said that Patrick was shot. Now, who here in this room has access to a gun?
Well, what an insightful question, Father. I gather we should assume that your old friends in the police could supply you with one, or did you happen to keep one as a memory of your old career?
I can tell you that Patrick had a gun. Our father had a pair of them left to both of us in his will. Patrick insisted on having one. As you know, he was very fond of getting his own way. How typical of Patrick. He always took what he wanted with no concern of what wants anyone else. I don't know if I've ever known a more selfish man. The heartache he has caused me over the years, and now the stress that he put on Colin under. I'll never understand him.
You know, as I recall, I did see a gun in Patrick's desk at the pub. However, that night, the murder, there was no gun in the drawer.
Somebody was in love with Patrick. I found this note in his bedside table. I didn't write it. May green be the grass you walk on. May blue be the skies above you. May pure be the joys that surround you. May true be the hearts that love you. My heart loves you forever.
You didn't write it. I knew you never loved him. And Murphy, you should have married Liam. I've seen you two together looking at each other just as you did all those years ago.
I came here a week ago to Plymouth to close off a simple business transaction. I had no idea that my wife and I were walking into such a bed of emotion. I'm appalled that no one is allowed any privacy in this town.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm a little confused. Why are you and Bridget insisting that you came to town only a week ago? Because I'm sure I saw her here in Plymouth more than a month ago, and she was acting and pretty much being quite secretive. She was sneaking in and out of the back of people's houses. And of course, I mean, I could be mistaken. I mean, I had been drinking just a little bit.
Well, I've been looking at my watch here, folks, and I think time is moving very fast. And I was thinking that we should solve this very quickly because someone here is going to be making an arrest. And I'm hoping, Liam, you haven't done something so embarrassing and so rash that you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
Listen, everyone can stop looking at me and thinking your foul thoughts. You know, I admit that Patrick had trouble with my drinking, but I deny absolutely that I was fiddling the books or anything of that sort down at the pub. I'll show everyone in this town what I'm made of. I mean, I may have a temper, but that was in the past. Father, you know, we've all grown up and we've all changed. You know, my love for Ann is an honorable thing, and I should have never let her go.
Oh, Liam, your talk of love, it's really touching. But Patrick had told me that he had refused to give Ann a divorce. Now, what have you been doing to try and rekindle that love? You want her back in your life. How could you have killed your best friend?
Oh, my late husband could be a greedy man. A few months ago, I found his mother's will, and in it was the wish that this house be left to Bridget. Patrick would never discuss this with me.
I had always been told that Mother had never left a will. Although I suspect that she did, I will never forgive Patrick for taking away my house. It was always been a tradition in the Murphy family fit the eldest daughter to inherit the house. Patrick's actions have made me so furious that I left Plymouth, and I never forgave him.
You know, I completely agree with you, Bridget. Traditions ought to be respected. This town, Plymouth, is one with a grand history, and we are surrounded by our past. But it seems we've learned that Patrick seemed to have no appreciation of these things. And even though he was the grandest man that I've ever known, his expansion of the archway would have ruined its historical flavor. I think all Patrick cared about was the money.
Patrick was a shrewd businessman, which is why his sudden lack of funds is crying. What's happening now? Oh.
My conscience is bothering me, and I must tell you that while I was holding my sign, I overheard Patrick telling someone that he'd phoned the police and that a fraud squad would be arriving in the morning.
Your problems with the drink, Liam, are well known to everyone in this town. But I believe that it goes a little bit deeper than that. I believe that you are altogether a desperate man on all levels. How could you have embezzled from your friend at the same time as trying to steal his wife?
The police will discover as Liam is embezzling. I know that Patrick left the pub to me, despite what Liam told the newspaper.
Now I may gamble, but I never put somebody's life in danger. But I must tell you, Liam, that I would never, and I mean never, give my sister permission to marry such a dangerous man as you, even though you do dress like a nice guy.
My sister-in-law has struck me this past week as a woman perfectly capable of taking care of herself. I find it a pity that she was so unhappy that she felt murder was the only solution.
You know, these accusations are going nowhere. You know, I know where the guilty party stands.
Well, I should remind you, Father, that you're a suspect too, since you're here at this wake. And perhaps you would care to share with us what your meeting with Patrick that night was about. He told me he was going to see you.
Well, I saw the good father come out of the meeting, and he looked very pale too. And I'm just wondering, did Patrick follow through on his threat, Father? You know, he told me that he had proved that you had caused the death of an innocent man.
I can't believe that it's come to this. Patrick discovered who really stole the eye of the king, and he kept that thief secret. He was planning to have the jewel set inside a pictorial cross and send it to Father Michael so that Father's guilt over thieving Tom would be seen by the whole congregation. Oh, Father, why did you have to kill the man?
Okay, if everybody would please head on downstairs to the gathering room, and then you can question us so we can figure out who really did kill Patrick.
One thing to keep in mind when we're down there is, obviously you can ask us questions, but if we say, I have nothing to say about that, that's only because if you ask us a question and we weren't given clues to that, we honestly don't know, okay? So we'll meet you downstairs.
Did the blue raincoat have a gunshot, a hole in it?
Who are you asking?
Anyone?
The priest that found him.
We were not aware. In fact, when I saw the body, I thought it was hit by a car. And I didn't see a gunshot.
Next question.
Who had the most to gain from the death?
Who are you asking?
Yeah, it's gonna depend.
It needs to be a targeted question.
Okay, let's see. Bridget.
No, I mean, you need to say, ask something specific to the person.
Okay. Bridget, how much did you have to gain from the death?
Until now, I don't know how much I've gained because it will be revealed whether I am implicated or not.
Una, what did you think of the late Patrick Murphy?
I was very fond of him.
Yes.
Una,
Yes.
are you the one that wrote the note that was found in his nightstand?
Yes.
Una, were you his mistress?
Oh, snap.
I am not at liberty to say that at this time. I don't know. We don't know. Yeah. Yeah, define, exactly, yeah, define mistress, I don't know.
Yes.
My question is for Bridget. Did you find out that your mother had left a will? When did you find out that your mother had left a will?
It was common knowledge in the family. I'm sorry, we just found out tonight.
This question is for Anne. Does she think that she might possibly rekindle her relationship with Liam in the future?
Oh, yes, I think I'm falling in love with him again.
Father Kelly, who was the parishioner that you were going to see that night?
It was just a member of the parish, nothing special that had to do with any of the characters here.
Really?
I'm a priest.
My question is for Colm. Did you know that your wife was set to inherit the house and the pub?
That is not known by me.
Deirdre, are you only an activist, an anti-prohibition activist, or what else do you do? Do you have a day job, or?
My day job is actually to promote prohibition and to walk up and down all the streets that have all the pubs and make sure that all this drunken nonsense stops. Oh, yes.
Deirdre, are you currently married?
No, I am not married.
Yes.
Deirdre, is anybody else seated with you a member of your prohibition group?
No, they are not.
Liam, this is for you. Why was the pub under investigation? And who was doing the investigation?
As for which party was actually doing the investigation, whether it was local authorities or...
Right, like a banking or, you know?
It was more specific to, the books.
Okay.
So there was rumored to have been an issue with embezzling. But that's all I heard about it.
Yes.
Una, are you having an affair with Father Kelly?
I know nothing about that. I'm reasonably certain no.
A lot of drinking goes on. Well,
I didn't hear you.
Could you please repeat that question?
Do you have access to a gun?
I don't believe so.
Una, do you already have the jewel?
Sorry, repeat that, please.
Do you already have the jewel in your possession?
I don't know.
This is for the father?
Oh, okay, sorry, I do own a gun, but I didn't know that. Somebody else knew that, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yes, I do own a gun.
Father Kelly, tell us more about Thieving Tom.
Well, you know, Thieving Tom, I know the clues were very obvious and everyone pretty well said he was guilty, but I've always had my doubts about it. I really had, being the detective at the time. So I was never sure if Thieving Tom was guilty.
Did Thieving Tom have any children?
Not that we were aware of.
Do you feel that you were unsure because you actually the one that stole the jewel?
No, it was just my feeling in working on the case. I never thought he was guilty. That's all. I'm sorry I can't tell you more.
Father Kelly?
Yes.
When you found Patrick, how was he laying? Was he on his stomach, on his back, on his side?
It just looked like he got hit by a car. That's all I can recall. I was driving my car out to see this parishioner, and I thought it was a dog laying in the side of the road. And as I got out of the car and approached it, sure enough, it was my good friend Patrick.
But he wasn't, you can't tell, I mean, how long were you a detective? 2 months, 10 years?
I was a number of years when I left the force to decide to pursue a religious career.
So you couldn't, there was no blood around the body or anything like that?
I wasn't playing detective. It was raining, cold, and it was very immaterial to the whole case. How's that?
Who's Tom O'Reilly, besides being a detective? Is he anybody of any importance?
Tom O'Reilly is just a police chief.
Oh, he's the chief.
Yes.
Ann, was your late husband someone who had ever hurt himself?
That's something that I would have no knowledge of.
Father Kelly,
Yes.
you were the only one that was driving a vehicle that night?
I was asked, or I decided to take Liam home because he was too drunk. As far as other vehicles, I wasn't paying attention.
Because he was already dead after he was hit by a car. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how that progressed. Does anyone know?
He had been shot around midnight, but when they found the body, or the father here found the body in the morning, it looked like a hit and run. It was only when they later did medical investigation that they determined that he had actually been shot.
Okay.
This is for Cole. When was the sale of the pub to be finalized?
We were working on that, and we were looking at doing it pretty soon.
Does his death delay the closing of the transaction for you?
I'm unaware of that.
Deirdre, how do you support yourself?
I have no information on that. I'm supported by the town.
That like a drink.
Leah, did you agree to sell the pub?
It was never my intention to see that the pub got sold. If anything though, I know that there was that somebody else had an expansion in mind, and my only thought about that was the fact that I did not want to see the pub expanded.
Why not?
It was actually, believe it or not, it was actually an agreement that I had with Deidre.
This is for Father Kelly again. You were driving Liam home because he was too drunk, is that correct, when you spotted the body?
I spotted the body the following day, but to correct the situation with Liam, he was drunk. I was concerned about the people. He was a little wild, and I didn't exactly drive him all the way home. He asked me to drop him off a couple blocks from the pub.
So you didn't see him again until after the shooting?
Following day, yes. I was going to take him home and go home myself. He said, "No, stop, Father. A couple blocks from the pub. I can handle this myself," and I let him walk away. I don't know where he went.
Where did
And I
you
just
go?
went on home.
Where did you go?
Went home.
What time was that at?
I don't really remember.
Did you have intentions to expand the pub with your investigation?
That wasn't part of our, we weren't looking into that.
Richard?
Bridget, did you have any ownership in the pub?
Excuse me?
Did you have any ownership in the pub?
Not at the time before his murder.
And what caused you to come back to town a week before his death?
Or longer, I don't know. I was just drawn back here. I came back to Plymouth about a week ago.
I want to correct one thing, make sure we don't misunderstand. I mentioned about driving Liam home and dropping him off a couple blocks from the pub. But as far as where I went after that, I don't know. All right? Is that fair?
Liam, does anybody else have a crush on you besides me?
Well, after a few drinks, I think everybody has. All I know.
Bridget, so there were two guns, correct, that were given?
Correct.
And one is in your possession?
No.
Oh, it's not in your possession. Where's
It
the?
was, came out. That one was in the desk drawer and one,
That's, okay. And do you,
and Uma has a gun, but not known whether it was the part of the pair.
do you know what type of guns were they? Did you ever see them? Like, was it a revolver?
I believe they were handguns.
Deirdre, Liam mentioned an agreement. What was this agreement?
I know nothing about the agreement. I just am happy protesting all of this, and how I support myself, I do right. So I do that.
Una,
Yes.
what is your relation with Liam?
I think he is a filthy drunk who embezzles. He's a criminal. And I also think he is a murderer. Does that answer your question?
Have you had any business arrangements with him?
No, I would make no arrangements with that drunk.
Scoundrel.
I do want to clarify one thing too that was discussed just a moment ago, because I really dislike this guy over here in the hat. The night of the murder, Father Kelly dropped Liam off, as he said, a couple of blocks away from his home, and I did, because I like to sit in my parlor window. I have 4 cats, and we like to sit in the parlor and watch what goes on the street. And I did see Liam staggering home, soaking wet. He did not have a raincoat. He was soaking wet, and it was well after midnight, the night of the murder. I just wanted to point that out and make sure that everybody was clear on that little fact. I did see him on his way home. He lives across the street from me, and I did see him going home. Anyway.
So my question is for Brian. It was Deidre saw you return to the pub that night. When did you go back there?
I don't know anything about that.
She said that she saw you go into the back door.
She needs glasses.
right? But you were going through Patrick's desk drawer and you said the gun wasn't there, so clearly you went back to find something or look for something? Why would you be going through the desk drawer? And how would you know if there was a gun there or wasn't a gun there? Would you have knowledge of that he had it? For
No.
a specific reason, or? No?
It might have been open when I walked by, but I don't remember.
Let's say for you as well, they saw you sneaking in though in a blue coat back into the pub.
It doesn't mean it was a blue raincoat.
But you just said you weren't in the pub, you didn't go back to the pub.
I must have had too much wine at dinner.
Why did you say you were at the horse track?
Why didn't I?
Why did you say you were at the horse track?
I didn't, I just had winnings that I was celebrating with the money I had won.
Ann made you dinner, and then you were at the horse track.
Guess that means six. Yeah, I had winnings.
Leah, why didn't you want Father to drive you all the way home?
Well, I just didn't want to trouble him. I mean, I was perfectly fine walking the rest of the way home.
Well,
That's all
wouldn't
I
it be
can say about
troubling
it.
him
I
for
mean,
you to get in the car in the first place?
You know, I'm not gonna get into this conversation where people are gonna start accusing me. I'm just telling you, you know, people keep calling me drunk and all that. Trust me, I was fine. I just wanted some fresh air, and I just wanted to walk the rest of the way
Why
home.
didn't you walk the whole way then?
Well, it was raining, and everybody was thinking that with a few drinks and the cold weather that I was gonna get really sick. But, you know, he was just trying to be kind.
Brian, I just have one thing to say before that. I just also would like to point out, because he was so drunk, even if he did the murder, he probably wouldn't remember it.
Brian, did you think that Ann would inherit the bar after Patrick died?
Really don't know about that.
Father, the note that was addressed to you, initial PM, we assume that's Patrick Murphy, but there was a reference to a package. Did you receive a package? What do you have to tell us about that?
I can't tell you anything. I know nothing about it.
Any more questions?
This is for Una. What can you tell us about the nasty telephone call you overheard between Patrick and Bridget?
It was very nasty. It was full of vitriol. I wouldn't repeat the language used. It's not something fit to be repeated in front of.
Do you know what they were arguing about?
I don't, no. I wasn't able to discern that.
So the detective, the body was found on the way going back from town after you saw your parishioner. Was it by anyone's house, or was it close to anything, any of these people, where they would have gone by?
It would not make any difference, the placement of the body or where it was located.
It wasn't in front of anyone's house?
No, it's all irrelevant. Yes.
I have a question for Bridget. You had said that Ann was not home the night of the murder. How do you know that to be so?
That was not mentioned. I just mentioned that I went out for a walk,
Then you saw her.
and then I saw her.
And this question is for Ann. I'd like to know, you were engaged to Liam?
Yes, a very long time ago.
What happened to break that up, and why did you choose your husband, your late husband?
I don't know. I fall in and out of love. What can I say?
This question's for Bridget. What was your opinion of Anne?
She was my sister-in-law, and I didn't approve of their marriage. Nor did I attend their wedding.
Ann, your husband called you when the tires were flat in his car, and he couldn't get through to you. Where were you at the time?
That must have been when I was out looking for Liam, because he was so upset about the problems that he and Patrick had had. After dinner, after the singing at the piano, etc.
Did you ever find Liam?
No, I didn't. I went back to the pub and he wasn't there and the place was silent, so no, never did see him.
Brian, do you have a gambling debt?
Yes.
How much is it?
It's big.
This is for Father Kelly. I don't know if this has been asked, but you used to be a cop. What does your instincts as a former police officer tell you about this whole murder?
You know, I can't really relate any instincts I had. I will say, though, that I'm good friends with Tommy O'Reilly, and he did tell me that I would be the person to arrest the accused at the wake. He gave me that detective ability.
Can you disclose the person you're going to arrest? Or?
Sure, no problem.
More questions?
Yeah. Deirdre, did you have feelings for Patrick?
No, I actually did, no, I did not have feelings for him. I actually did not like Patrick. I thought he was very dishonest, and I just did not care for him.
But you're cool with Liam?
Oh, I'm not cool with Liam at all. I think he's an absolute drunk, and I protest mainly to have him see the error of his ways.
Would you do business with him? You had some kind of business agreement with him?
I'm not aware of any business agreement.
Colin, did you say you were at Ann and Patrick's house at that time this occurred and that you did not hear a phone call?
I didn't say anything about that.
Brian, did you steal the gem to pay off your gambling debt?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Did you steal the gem to pay off your gambling debt?
Not to my recollection. Do my cufflinks look like the gem? Yeah. The other question that was just asked prior, I was the one that stated the phone never rang during the night.
Because you were at Ann's house?
Yes, I was with Ann. She cooked me that lovely supper. You were listening.
This question is for Liam. So we've heard from Deirdre that she is vehemently denying that any relationship between the two of you. Why did you say that you had an agreement? Is that a lie?
No, it's, I don't think I was drunk at the time or anything, but, I love the pub. It's one of the places, it's one of my most favorite places, and I'm happy with the pub being the way it is. I've heard about things about the expansion and things like that. I know that Deidre is against the pub in general, and my only thing with that was the fact that, I stated that, it was my hopes to see that it wouldn't expand.
Why wouldn't you want to expand it if you're going to make additional money off of that?
I'm happy with the place just the way it is. It's all about the history, just the way it is. I love the place.
Brian, you said Ann cooked you dinner, but Ann said she left to go up looking for Liam. So how long were you with Ann?
Long enough to eat my dinner.
What time did you leave?
I don't recollect the time.
Did the phone ring at all while you were there?
No.
Bridget, what time did you go on a walk? And Cole was not with you on the walk, is that right?
I didn't look at the clock before I left for my walk, and I just needed a breath of fresh air.
So you don't know where Cole was during that time?
When I left, he was in the hotel.
This question is for Ann. Why were you looking for Liam that night?
Because he and Patrick had been having some problems. Patrick had actually fired him working with him at the pub, and only recently had let him back into the pub again. And Liam had been very upset about this, and I was concerned, and so I went looking for him after dinner.
Ann?
Yes.
So you're cooking dinner for Brian, you're out looking for Liam,
Later.
and you're married to Patrick.
Correct. Brian is my brother.
Just checking.
I have to. You know how it is with these guys who bet all the time. He didn't have enough money to go take care of himself for dinner.
Just checking here.
This question is for Calm. What time did you call Bridget in her room when she was out taking her walk? Do you remember?
Yeah, there's no times on her screen.
Somebody got
shut at midnight.
Yeah.
Is there a will for the pub? Is the pub in Patrick's will to give to anybody upon his death?
You have to ask, yeah, who you ask?
Well, actually,
I guess Ian.
Yes.
Question is directed to you.
The house was left, the house was our mother's, or Patrick and Bridget's mother's, and it was her desire that the house go to Bridget. The
In the
pub,
event of,
though,
It's not mentioned.
there was some, I thought,
There was a deal.
in the event of Patrick's death, who owns the pub?
that's a good question.
Maybe that's the river.
I thought it was in there. It's in the
Does it go to Ann?
Yes.
It goes to
No,
you?
oh, I don't know that. We don't know. Will hasn't been read yet.
This question is for Una. You've stated here that you love doing family history research, and it's pretty much your business to know everything in town.
Oh, yeah.
Since old Bridget over there is saying that she had no recollection or didn't have any idea that she was going to be inheriting the pub possibly, is there a chance that you took her up?
About inheriting the pub?
We never talked about it.
Were you in contact with her before this murder?
No, she doesn't live in Plymouth, so we aren't really friends.
Not friends, but were you in contact with
No.
her prior?
No.
By letter or phone?
No.
Oh, for Liam, it was said that Patrick was working on the books the night of his death. Have you reviewed these books recently?
I haven't gone through them. I mean, you know, regardless of any issues that we had, you know, we are best friends. One of the things that I can tell you though is, you know, Brian here plays so Mr. Innocent, and I don't know anything about anything. But, you know, he had some pretty large gambling debts. And I know that Patrick, you know, I mean, he was helping Brian out with some of that debt. And we did get to a point where he decided that he wasn't gonna help him anymore. So, leave some questions to me there, Mr. Brian.
Somebody in the back.
Ian, who was responsible for maintaining, you know, who was the accountant for the books at the pub?
Patrick pretty much handled the business aspect of it. I handled making sure everybody was having a good time.
Liam, if the finances were in trouble at the time of his death and you were looking, or he was looking to expand the pub, where was that money coming from?
Well, like I said, I didn't really handle the books. I mean, I trusted that Patrick was doing a good job handling everything. I wasn't aware of Patrick wanting to see it expand, but I just heard rumor of it. I don't know anything beyond that.
What was the story about the cross and the jewel? Was it you that knew?
Oh, that was me.
No,
That was me.
Can you talk about that again? and what that was about?
Sure, let me read you the story again. Get my story. So the story of the jewel is that many years ago, Thieving Tom was well known in these parts for his thieving ways. He broke into houses and took all the fine things. And one night he broke into Draper's jewelry store on Main Street and stole the finest prize of all, a large sapphire known as the Eye of the King. The ancient jewel was on loan from Ireland and was rumored to be part of the King Leprechaun's booty. But anyway, he stole it, and the good father was a detective then, and didn't he catch Thieving Tom? So he did catch Thieving Tom. Tom's fingerprints were all over Draper's, and Father Kelly had enough evidence to put Tom away in jail, and the poor man, Tom, died 2 months of a heart attack. And then shortly after that, Father went into the seminary, and the Eye of the King was never found.
A question for Una. Your family was into independently wealthy?
Yes.
Where did that money come from?
Oh, my family came over on the Mayflower. We've had money for ages. We don't even remember.
Did that jewel ever,
Sorry.
did that jewel ever belong to your family?
Not that I'm aware of, no. It was a leprechaun's jewel.
Una, you said you sat in your parlor window the night of the murder. Did you see Ann walk down towards the pub?
Not that I recall, no.
Brian, do you have a gun?
No.
Ma'am, what time does the bar close?
There is no time, but for me, the doors never close.
To the general public, there's no time at the pub, it's not like 2 a.m.?
There's no times in the script, is what.
Oh, okay.
Brian, you had gambling debts and you were known to go through Patrick's desk. Were you embezzling money from the pub?
Not that I know of.
Father, when you went and joined the seminary, were you running away from something that in the past, did you have a guilty conscience over something in particular?
Well, I think so, the script has discussed that, we have talked about it through the night, they're all saying that, I've never admitted to it, so I can't really say that's true.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up the questions now, so if you want to take a couple minutes and decide who you think did it, and then we'll start asking you to give us your opinions on who you think did it. So just a couple minutes. Pizza's here, we don't want to take too long. All right, are you ready to start guessing who did it? Who wants to take a gander? All right, we're going to start taking guesses.
Okay, I think that Una did it because I think she was jealous of, I think she was thinking it was Ann walking down the side of the road, hit her, she had a gun, she realized that maybe it wasn't, when she realized it wasn't Ann and realized it was Patrick, she shot him because he recognized her and he would have gone to the cops.
Okay. Who else wants to take a guess?
I think it was Bridget, because I think that it would have been beneficial for her husband's business for this to happen, as well as she was seen going in and out of houses, which means she could have picked up the missing gun and shot Patrick. I also think that she was jealous of Patrick because of how he treated her throughout the years and had taken the house from her. So she has multiple motives, and she had been out and about on the night, as well as there were witnesses saying that she had been going in people's houses.
Anybody else? Nobody else?
I think it was Cole. I think he did it because he had found out that Patrick had been cooking the books, and he was going to be in a position when that was exposed to look bad in front of the investing group that he had put together to buy the pub. And he didn't want to put himself in that position, so he had to get rid of the evidence that the deal he had put together was fraudulent.
Who else? What's that?
You want to know now.
Nobody else wants to guess? Okay, then I guess we'll have to find out who did it.
Before you raise your hands before you speak.
Oh.
You think he did it?
Okay, so what we're going to do is, before each of them talks, they're each going to talk, raise your hand to tell us if you think that person did it. So who thinks Colin did it?
Let's do it all.
Yeah, do it all.
Yeah.
Do it all before you, okay. Do round table.
So who thinks I did it? 2 people? 3? Can I ask why you think I did it?
No, let's.
She's a writer.
Who thinks Liam did it? Brian? No, there's more. How about Bridget? And Ann? And Father Kelly? And Una? Oh!
I'm so offended. All I do is research genealogy and talk to my cats, and you think I am a murderess. So rude.
I'll just say that I'm innocent. I was desperate to have my business deal go through as my job was on the line, but I would never kill for a business deal.
I am innocent. I would never kill my own brother. It's true that I was furious about not receiving the house after my mother's death, but tradition is not worth killing over.
I'm innocent.
Thank God.
I am a gambling man, and I'll always gamble that things will turn out for the best. I'm sure my sister will pay off my debts. But she does me.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I am innocent. I mean, why would I kill my best friend anyway? You know, it is true that I was kind of helping myself to some of the funds from the pub, but I'm sure Patrick and I would have worked it all out. I mean, we've been getting each other out of scrapes since we were very small. I did not kill him.
Well, I'm innocent. I am in love with Liam, and Patrick was refusing to give me a divorce, but I would never have killed him. I was confident that Patrick would never stand forever in the way of his best friend's happiness.
I am innocent. How could I have killed the only man I will ever love? He'd kept my secret for many years. I was the one who had stolen the Eye of the King. I was with thieving Tom that fateful night. The Eye of the King belongs with me. I am a descendant of the Irish kings. But Patrick convinced me that he had a use for it, and he assured me that I would get it back. I trusted him with my biggest secret. I never would have killed him.
I'm innocent. It's true the death of thieving Tom has been on my conscience for years. I was never convinced that we had caught the right man, but I had put my faith in the justice system. When I heard of his death in prison, I knew that I could not continue as a detective, and that's when I decided to enter the seminary. I have never regretted my decision. Unfortunately, however, I now have the sad duty of arresting Patrick's murderer. As a former member of the police, I was granted permission. Say your piece now, it'll be your only chance.
Wow. All this talk of love and money has made me feel simply ill. Is there no presence at this table, who has any sense of what is really important in life? No. Well then, I'll tell you. Drinkers get what they deserve. Saloon corrupts local politics and morals. Alcohol interferes with mental and physical process, hurts the body, and puts the drinker at a disadvantage. We need to prohibit the sale of alcohol in Plymouth. Everyone knows in this town how I feel about that expansion of the pub. I made myself very clear with my protest, signs, and letters to the police. But Patrick was determined. But don't I know how to stop a determined man? I didn't leave the pub when it started to rain. I had taken the gun from Patrick's desk a few days before, and I used it to shoot out his car tires. No one heard me. There's always such a din at the pub. I left the parking lot and waited along the road. I knew he'd have to walk home because Ann is always with Liam. Yes, I did know about you two. When he came walking down the path, and the dark night it was, I stopped him and gave him one more chance to assure me that he wouldn't be expanding his pub. He laughed at me. The poor man laughed at me, a sane and sober person. He had to die. And I'm not sorry.